our May SHRS Innovation Institute seminar. Today, we're really fortunate to have Mel Pirchesky with us. Mel's going to present on how to present an elevator pitch. And so essentially, this is going to be a little bit of a workshop on elevator pitches. Mel's a longtime Pittsburgh entrepreneur, and he is the founder and president of Eagle Ventures and has raised a great deal of money through that mechanism. And so he's been helped out many people in our region presenting their value proposition for their company or for their project. And we've relied on Mel quite a bit over the years to help us communicate. And so, Mel, I'm going to turn it over to you, and thank you for being here.
Absolutely, Dave. My pleasure. I always enjoy these. All right, great. Well, just Dan mentioned that I had raised a lot of money. The key thing is I had actually raised about 110 million of equity over the years, and all of that is associated with raising private venture capital or angel capital. In fact, all of that money that I've raised, only about $500,000 came from a VC, venture capital firm. The rest came from high net worth individuals. And what I did, frankly, is, although that's a big number, it's not magic. It really was just a lot of blocking and tackling, and the principles that I learned over the years, that's what we're going to go over today. And as Dave or Dan mentioned, I'm going to go over the PowerPoint, and it's an okay PowerPoint, but it's like we've all seen PowerPoints. So it's nothing outstanding, but after the PowerPoint, we're going to create at least the opening of the elevator pitch for as many of you as we have time for. And that's really the interesting part of this discussion, because that's where you get to actually create something, and that's fun. So just by way of background, I used to be a partner with one of the big accounting firms many years ago, one of the big 8 at the time, and I decided I wanted to, strike my own path and maybe get rich if I'm lucky. Looking back, I realized that being an entrepreneur certainly was a way to go, because it's great to have your freedom and so on, as long as you can stand the uncertainties and the unknowns, and wondering whether you're going to be able to make payroll tomorrow, or those kind of things, or pay the rent at the end of the month. And after I was a partner for just a couple of years, I set out on my own, like almost 40 years ago now, to raise money. I thought I knew how to raise money, or at least I knew how to sell, but I didn't. Learned the hard way that I didn't know, and took a bunch of courses like Dale Carnegie and Toastmasters, those kinds of things, and eventually learned how to sell. And when I got to the $20 million level of cumulative funds raised, I had basically an insight that was quite surprising, but it's obvious when said. In fact, almost everything we're going to talk about today is obvious when said. Sometimes if it's not been said, though, it's a mystery, a treason, of course. And the insight that I had is that there is more good deals out in the world than there is money, but there's way more money than great deals. And if you have a great deal, we'll get into defining what that is, and you're not getting funding, it's not due to lack of funding, not at all. I mean, my own experience demonstrates that there's a lot of money out here, and almost all that $100 million plus came from Southwestern PA, by the way. Angel investors, maybe 90%, 10% from angel investors in other cities. But anyways, I came to realize that for sure there's way more money than there are great deals. And if I had a great deal and I'm not getting funded, it's not due to lack of funding. It's not that I don't have a great deal. Anybody, if you want to raise your hand or just yell it out, what do you think's missing? If you have a great deal and there's more money than there is great deals out there, but you're still not getting funded, what do you think's missing? Anybody want to yell out an answer? Anybody want to yell out an answer without being on mute? Because I think everybody may be on mute here, except for a couple of you. Somebody must know an answer here. So you have plenty of money out there in the world for great deals. You have a great deal, and you're not making progress in funding. What would be missing?
You don't know how to interest people in it.
Okay. Thank you, Sandra. And to make it easy, when you don't know how to interest people in it, that's merely you're not being effective at communicating. And what dawned on me, the second thing being that you're not communicating, but that really was refined to realize that just because I said it, in many cases, that doesn't mean that they heard it or that they got it to the depths of their bones. They heard it, but they didn't get it. Because in follow-up discussions with, fundraising presentations, I asked people why they were saying no, and they told me something, and I thought, wait a minute, I covered that. And after many times of thinking that in various presentations, that's when I came to realize that just because I said it doesn't mean they got it. And they need to get it if you want them to invest in something. And so that was the trick. And I'm going to bring up the PowerPoint here and a share screen. Creating your elevator pitch slide. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to jump here to where we are. So what makes a great deal? So for me, and again, this is different by everybody, but it's a huge market, at least $500 million in size. Sustainable competitive advantage could be a patent, something else that gives you a long-term advantage, but usually it's got to be something that is ongoing. And patents don't keep people away, but what they do is they delay somebody trying to catch up to you. And while they're trying to catch up, you can have product improvements to stay ahead of the game. Great business model, I define that as one where the gross margin in your sale of your product or service is better than 50%. Does anybody not know what a gross margin is? Gross profit versus net income versus net profit. Anybody not know?
I don't know.
Okay, good. Thank you for saying that, Sandra. So let's talk about, like, if you have a car, you sell a car for $50,000. It costs you, say, $30,000 to manufacture it. All in costs. And so your gross profit on that automobile is $20,000, 50 minus 30. But that's not your net profit, because your net profit is you got to reduce your gross profit by advertising and the CEO's salary and rent and commissions and all of those kinds of things to get down to net income. So gross profit is what you make on the sale of the widget. And if you have a software platform or software service, your gross profit is probably 99.9% because it costs you nothing pretty much to make another version of your to make another copy of your software program. And so what I like to see in the world is a gross profit, that is the price of your product or service minus a direct allocable cost and some overhead that needs to be allocated, should be at least 50%. Medical devices, often it's 70%. Acceptable risk, which is most kinds of risks are acceptable, especially if you've got a sustainable competitive edge and these other items here. But at least the investors have to understand risk, and then you need what I call a great, not a good CEO. The reason that's so important, that's really important, is that you can have all of these top four things, but if you have what I call a good, not a great CEO, the best you're going to end up with is going to be a living dead, or you'd be totally tanked and done and gone. If you have a great CEO, you have a chance to be very successful, and maybe at your worst would be a living dead. And what makes a great CEO? And I'm just giving you this as his background as we get up to the elevator pitch. But it's really two things, in my opinion. Great people person, you work with that individual, not for that individual, very key. And someone who has good judgment on the front line and the trenches where it counts. And as you see, that every great CEO is a CEO for the first time sometime. I used to think it was experience, but it's not. It is having really good judgment. And that's so important because when you're making dozens of judgments every week based on insufficient data, you better have good judgment. That's not being, magic, not being Superman or Superwoman, just really good judgment. That will give you a good chance to get to where you want to get to. And the reason good judgment is so important is that you make a decision on a day to go right, 1 degree or 2 degrees from where you were going, and next week, next day, you make another decision based on the earlier decision. And so all your decisions are based on earlier decisions. And if you start to make not such good or great judgments and decisions, you eventually will get off path and may never get back. So we've talked about if you aren't getting funded, it's all in the articulation. And think about like when you do get on an elevator, or you're at a party, or you're in front of some judges. By the way, Dan and David, are the participants in this group, are they going to be in some kind of an elevator pitch competition where money can be awarded?
Maybe some, Mel, but that's not really the purpose of the seminar series, is not to necessarily put them in that situation. This is an exposure to the elevator pitch and how to do it well. Okay.
All right. Well, the point about it is, if you have a chance to enter one of the competitions at Pitt, big ideas, a number of them, you can make $25,000 or maybe even more. I think the one with the School of Engineering, what that's called, that there's $100,000 prize there. So a lot of that money is driven by how you say what you say. I mean, you have to have a good idea to begin with, but then where the winners are distinguished is they have an effective presentation. So if you're in front of a judge, you want to be really good at what we call an elevator pitch. So, well, what is that? Think about this. If you know anything about fishing, you would know that you can't catch a fish unless you get him to nibble first. I mean, you can, I guess. Everything I say here is always exceptions, but generally you can't get a fish unless you get him to nibble first. Well, when you're making a presentation, or you're at a party, or in an elevator, or just talking to another individual, we all have short spans of attention. Usually 10, 20, 30 seconds at most is for most people, their span of attention. And so if you don't get your idea across right off the bat, what you do is lose an opportunity to have them listen to what you have to say differently. For example, I could have said right after I was introduced that, I raised money for startup companies from early stage investors, and I've done it for a lot of years. But if I said those things, if I was in your shoes, I would think something like, well, yeah, you and everybody else, so what? But I brought out that $110 million number purposefully because I wanted to have you think, oh, tell me more, be interested in that. And this is what I'm talking about. The first 20 or 30 seconds, and it could be 10 seconds, it could be even 30 or 40 seconds, but it's going to be what you do and something that independently authenticates the importance of what you do. So if I were to say I do this fundraising, et cetera, that's all nice. But when I throw out that $100 million number, that is something that independently authenticates that, hey, that's what I do is important for people who care about fundraising. That would be any particular entrepreneur wannabe, any particular investor would want to know, well, how did you do that? And maybe I should be investing with you. And also CEOs looking for the next gig. They might be interested in somebody that's raised that kind of money. And for me, from a business point of view, when I'm in a crowd, when I'm in a seminar, when I'm anywhere, I'm always looking for the next great deal. I'm looking for the next great next investor. I'm looking for the next CEO. Those three things. And me saying that $107 million that I raised brings that out in people if they're interested in fundraising. And so the idea is at the end of that 20 or 30 seconds, they're going to say something that has them, they're going to think, tell me more. And if they think that, they're going to listen to the next couple of minutes differently. That's the key about an elevator pitch. And then in the next couple of minutes, you kind of sink the hook a little deeper. And if you do, with again the same concepts you're talking about, then you're going to have to listen to the next half hour differently. And that's the key, is you want them engrossed. What you would want to say in your pitch, and we're going to focus on the opening, but throughout your pitch, you want to talk about the pain and the solution. You know, like, and the fewer words, the better when you're talking about an elevator pitch. Shorter, the better. So if you had a pitch that said, "We cure cancer," and that's all you said, you got me hooked. You're going to have me thinking, "Oh, tell me more. I want to know more about that." So you can talk about what your solution is or what you expect your solution to be. If you're a scientist or an engineer, that type of personality, you're probably used to stating only the facts. But in this case, because we're talking about a concept, you can state what you believe as long as you say, "I believe," or it has the potential for, because you have to be able to sell a future that's not necessarily based on too many facts today, and will be proven out with whatever it is you're developing. But you've got to talk about that future. And the way you can do that is talk about based on what you believe or what you feel is going to be the result of your technology. If you want to talk about the return, if you're going to say, well, there's a 10-to-1 return on the investment money, I mean, on the not the invested money, from the customer's point of view, they buy our product or service, they'll get a 10-to-1 return. You can say that, and that would catch my attention. Just keep in mind that everything you say has to be authentic, has to be accurate, because I'll be asking you about some things like that down the line. And if you can't back that up, then that totally blows your whole pitch. Makes me wonder about your credibility. So it's great if you can say it, but don't say it unless you can demonstrate it. Doesn't mean prove it, but demonstrate the logic of how you got to the return. And if you're in a longer conversation, like 30 minutes or an hour, make sure at the end of it that you ask, well, when can we meet again? When can I follow up? When can I talk to you? We're going to go over the elevator pitch here, the opening, as I said, but to get to a refined pitch, these are the concepts that you've got to be focused on. One, it's an iterative process, meaning you've got to practice over and over again. You just don't necessarily have it refined the first time out. There was some famous basketball coach once said, everybody loves to go to a championship game. Nobody loves to practice. So if you want to do well with your idea, if you want people to embrace it, if you want people to invest in it, if you want to get a grant application accepted, in fact, if you're looking for a job, because this applies in all of those areas when you're talking about selling a concept, including selling yourself. You want to, in the case of negatives, every deal, every situation, every person, there are negatives. You can't get rid of those. And you can't cover them up, but what you can do is position them, be proactive on positioning them. And these are real or perceived negatives, and it's a better route to go when you're proactive and articulating something about the negatives versus waiting for the prospective investor or the customer or whomever to bring up the negative. Then you're answering it on the defense. You want to answer your negatives on offense so that you're bringing them up, as I said, gives you the opportunity to position. You got to be enthusiastic. Almost nobody wants to invest in a boring presentation, no matter how good your thing is. And you can have people investing in something that is okay, but your enthusiasm is overwhelming, and that's what brings them in. Now, how do you express enthusiasm when you are an introvert? Like, I'm an introvert. I didn't say I was an introvert. I am an introvert. I'm the kind of person that goes to parties and kind of hangs out on the fringes of the room, mostly with my wife. And sometimes I'll meet a person or two, but I'm not out there on the dance floor, and I'm not out there meeting everybody all the time because I'm an introvert. but I've learned how to express my enthusiasm by simply realizing that if I've got it on the inside, I can express it on the outside. If I don't have enthusiasm on the inside, I never could express it on the outside. But if I've got it on the inside, which every one of you should have, and that you should not be working on any project that you're not enthusiastic about, then you should be able to express it on the outside, even if you are an introvert. And you can do that by raising your hands, increasing the tone of your voice, resonating in a way that people can tell, oh man, he must be really excited about that. Just like that. You've got to be authentic, yet you can fake it until you make it when it comes to expressing your enthusiasm. Again, as long as you've got it on. What was that question? Okay. Now, by the way, if you have any questions, jump right in and ask it, or some observations you want to make, jump right in. I am racing through this because of our time limits, but we will certainly stop to take any questions.
Yeah, just a couple minutes, Mel, and then we'll get to the presentations.
Okay, good. We won't be too long. To follow up after this workshop, it's great if you can get a personal coach or friends. Probably shouldn't necessarily be somebody that's associated with your project, because they know all about your project. You want somebody that doesn't know anything, like a new investor, a new customer, a judge, somebody that you're presenting before. They probably know nothing about your project. So if you have a personal coach that doesn't know anything, then they're kind of perfect as a listener. And you ask them, hey, sit down, I want you to listen to your thoughts when I make my presentation. And if you hear me saying things that you don't know what I mean, for example, if I were to say FBI today in a presentation, everybody would understand. If I were to say NIH, National Institute of Health, unless you were a scientific person, you wouldn't know what NIH meant. And when I say NIH, and I don't say National Institute of Health following it, I find that people tend to think, oh, well, what is that? I wonder what that means. And when they're thinking, oh, what is that? I wonder what that means. They're not listening to me, the speaker. That's how I end up saying things that people don't hear. So it's important to not use acronyms unless you use the definition of the acronym right after you say it, just like I said, NIH, National Institute of Health. The key with your coach is you want them to assume you're not communicating and writing down anything that they don't quite understand, or why did you say this? Why didn't you say that? Because the idea at the end is that you want the listener to understand to their bones, the opportunity that you've got. And the last slide is, one time I had this thought that, well, somebody might have come across Columbus when he was looking for money to sail to America, and that individual might have mentioned to Columbus, did you ever think of asking Queen Isabella, who at that time was the Queen of Portugal, and she is the one that gave the money to Columbus to come to America on his first visit. And so for Columbus, right in that moment, his world, and in fact, the world changed right there. So you never know when you're at a PowerPoint, presentation, you're in an elevator, you're at a party or whatever, and you happen to say something that catches people's attention and have them think, tell me more. And then they get engrossed in you, or they ask you, let's meet sometime. Your world could change. So it's good to know this, and it's good to be prepared to articulate. All right, that is the PowerPoint presentation. As I said, I went through this quickly just so that we have time to go through your pitches. So I'm going to take care of that. Okay. So who do we have? Who's the first one?
Paulina is the first one.
Yeah.
Hi, Paulina.
Hi, Mel. I'm the first one. All right.
Okay. Pleasure.
All right.
Okay, well, Paulina, tell me what your idea is. Now, keep in mind, we would like this to be the fewer words, the better. It's what is your idea, and then tell me something that impresses me about it, like, as independently authenticates it, your version of the $100 million thing or whatever. So okay. Tell me your idea.
I'll start from the top. So, hi, my name is Paulina Vilcreces, and our goal is to support older adults to age in place. Currently, it could take 3 to 6 months or more for healthcare programs to determine the need, process coverage, and install a device like a grab bar in the home of an older adult. During this time frame, the needs of the older adult may change. They might need more devices that were not accounted for.
Paulina, if I can interrupt you. Yes. No disrespect, and thank you for volunteering, because sometimes this is a little bit uncomfortable But it's what we go through to get to the end result. And it's also very useful for everybody else listening in because they can see it a lot easier than you do. So, you were off on the, 30-second plus going strong. And, you started out with something about helping people age in place. And the reason I wouldn't start with that is because, well, frankly, you and a lot of other people are keeping on every word, every phrase, and especially in this first 20 seconds is so important. So when you say something like that, the listener's going to be thinking, well, so what? I mean, a lot of people are focused on having people age in place. So that is something, anything you don't say in the first 20 seconds or 30 seconds, Paulina, you can say in the next 3 minutes or 8 minutes, however long your whole presentation is.
Okay.
So we're talking about just the first 20 or 30 seconds. So you're working on some concept to help people age in place. I heard that. And what is it that's special about what you're doing versus what has already been done? What's the gap? What's missing?
Should I continue with the problem where I was? Because the gap was coming.
Okay, well, let's jump over to the gap and tell me what you have. What are you doing to solve that problem that's different? Or what are you doing to fill a need or a gap with respect to that problem?
Okay, so I'll solve the gap again. I'll start with the gap, I guess. So during this time frame, the needs of older adults may change. They might need more devices that were not accounted for, or worse, suffer from a fall or injury in the absence of the device needed. So we have developed Mobius, a patent-pending adaptable rail system that allows the attachment of different devices, such as grab bars, handrails, stair assist devices, and many others. The Mobius system can be easily adapted to the changing needs of older adults at any time, allowing them to move safely, live independently, and age in the comforts of their own home.
Okay, see, now if you were on an elevator going up to the top of the Empire State Building, 100 floors, you'd have time to say all of that.
Okay.
But when you get on that elevator, the individual who's there, they might say, well, hi, I've seen you around, Paulina. What are you working on? You might only have 20, 30 seconds before they get to the third floor and get off. And your goal is to have them be thinking, tell me more, because when they get off, you want them to say something like, oh, let's plan a time to meet. And you've only gotten, 1/4 of what you want to say by the time they get to the third floor. So we have to cut to the chase in terms of, so your team has developed it sounds like it's a technology or a system.
Yes, an adaptable rail system called Mobius.
Okay. And I wouldn't say the name in the first 20 or 30 seconds because when you say Mobius, I say to myself, I think, oh, what did she say? I wonder what that means if you said Mobius or what. And when I'm thinking that, I don't hear anything that you said because I'm listening to myself. So you can bring Mobius in after the 30 seconds. I mean, the idea is when somebody says, what are you up to? You want to tell them what you do. And then in the next 30 seconds after that, you pause at the end of that first 20, 30 seconds. I want you to tell them what you do and what's special about it. And then you could say, my name is Paulina. Our team has developed the technology is called Mobius. You've already said, though, what it is and what's important about it. So these other things about, a lot of what you said could be said in the latter part of your presentation, meaning anything after the first 30 seconds. So, so you developed, it sounds like a tool. Right? It's a tool to assist older people.
It's a device.
Okay, it's a device that will assist older people to be able to stay in their home longer.
Yes.
Okay, that's what you're doing. Now, what's special about what you've got? Because, when you say that to me, a device to help people stay in their home, well, there's a lot of that out there. So what is it that you're doing that isn't out there?
Right. So our device allows for the attachment of many devices that help with mobility and accessibility in the home. Like I kind of mentioned that it allows the attachment of different devices like grab bars, handrails, and stair assist devices, and many others. So the idea is that usually with the healthcare programs, when they come and install a device, then you have like a grab bar. And so you have to wait so long for them to install the grab bar. With this system, you can basically install any device that you need at any time. And so you don't have to wait that long period or even, risk having a fall or an injury. You can just add any device that you need at any time, and it'll support you with, living at home safely and independently.
So does this
2
require?
minutes, Mel. 2 minutes.
Okay, yeah, let's see, we have to get quick. So does this require like a set of base installation in the home, and then you can add these things, as needed over time?
Yes.
Okay, so you've developed a device that will enable people to stay in the home. Have you done any research that has you conclude that you'll have more people staying at home with your technology than not? Anything like that that's proven it up?
Not really, but there is the statistic that only 10% of the homes in the U.S. are aging ready. So this system could potentially increase that number and make homes.
So that's the problem. Only 10% of homes in the United States are designed for people to age in place or stay at home as they age.
Mm-hmm.
We've developed a system that we believe. Now, what is it you believe? That's how I want to get at it. You believe this could increase that 10% to 20%, 30%, 40%? What? What has the potential? What's it have the potential?
I'm not sure what percentage exactly, but it does have the potential to increase that percentage.
Dramatically?
What?
Does that have the potential to increase that percentage dramatically?
I believe so. I mean, if you had the system installed, you could just use any of the devices in it. So I think it could be a big increase, but I would have to do more research.
I understand. Remember, this isn't, like I said, a scientist wants the fact. So you can say what you believe. And I can see, Dan, we're up in time, but I'm going to finish this up here with Paulina.
Okay.
Paulina, you could say you've developed 10%, studies have shown that 10% of all homes in the United States, only 10% of all homes in the United States are designed or ready-made for people that age in place. Anything like that. That's how you start. We've developed a device that we believe has the potential to substantially increase, and you got to give that enthusiasm and clarity substantially, and you could lean in like that. So we developed a device that we think could substantially, see how I raise my eyebrows? Any version of how you want to express your enthusiasm, that could substantially increase that we believe, that I believe, could substantially increase that percentage, and then stop. Don't say another word for a millisecond. And during that millisecond, you want the listener to think, tell me more.
Okay.
So let's try from the beginning one time. So the problem is that 10% of homes like that.
So the problem is that only 10% of the homes in the US are aging ready. And so we have developed a system that we believe that can substantially increase this percentage to help older adults stay at home.
Okay, well, when you say is again, when you use aging ready or whatever it was you said, that's jargon because I don't know what you mean. But would you say aging ready so people could stay in their home while they're aging or whatever? Okay. And then because you could say, the problem I'm developing is the issue of only 10%. You can say this any way you want. It's how you say, what do you do and what independently authenticates it. And because I talk about my $100 million thing many different ways. I'm proud to say, or I want to let you know, that's all okay because it comes out naturally. But the key is I say I raise money for startup companies and, $100 million. So you say the problem is 10%, and I believe we can increase that percentage substantially. Okay?
We're going to have to move on now.
Yes.
Thank you, Mel.
Paulina. Thanks, Paulina.
Thank you, Paulina.
Okay, the next is Asim.
Hey, can you hear me?
Where are you?
Perfect. Perfect. So my name is Asim Ijaz, and our team, the Skin Perfusion Bioreactors, have established a novel human skin perfusion platform with support from NIH and Department of Defense to offer innovative contract research services for drug discovery to pharmaceuticals, federal agencies, and researchers involved in skin wound healing, cosmetic research, oncology, aging, allergy, and metabolic discovery.
Okay,
the
so let's
market-
go back to the beginning, because that's, again, too long. We want to all, when you want to give the details of what the kinds of conditions you'll be working with, you can talk about that in the next, 30 seconds and later. So what was the first thing you said? You developed what again?
A novel human skin perfusion system.
See, a novel human skin perfusion system. See, when you say that to me, novel, I understand. Human skin, I understand. Perfusion system, I mean, I know what perfusion means, but I'm confused when you put it all together. So I call that jargon. When you say novel skin perfusion system, and it's not the novel, it's the skin perfusion system. So we need to describe this differently, but often describing something, at least in an elevator pitch, it isn't so much always about the feature, it's the benefit. See, that's what we're trying to get to. What's the benefit of what you're doing? Just like you're in your situation, Paulina, the benefit was, a substantial increase. That's what I want to know. As an investor, or even as a customer, features are nice, but benefits is what's going to have me buy it or invest in it. So what is the benefit of what you developed or developing?
Yeah, because this system provides you to do your research directly in human tissue. So which is actually, it increases the translation of the basic research.
Well, isn't the research done with human tissue today?
No.
Let's see, that's something I didn't realize. So what, you mean research for what? No, what are we talking
about? For anything related to skin area, skin diseases, skin cosmetic research, skin aging, oncology, melanoma, breast cancer. So those are the features. So anything which is related to skin pathology, we offer our platform to do all the preclinical research in a human system instead of doing it in mice or artificial system.
And why don't people use humans right now?
Because of the ability to sustain human tissue outside the body is kind of like lacking. So our technology enables to sustain the tissue outside the body.
Okay. So a major problem today for physicians that deal with skin tissue, or human skin tissue, is not being able to keep, how do we say this? Not being able to keep skin cells alive outside the body.
Yeah, the whole tissue viable outside the body.
Okay, not being able to have the skin tissue be viable away from the body, like in a petri dish. For the first time ever, is that what you've developed?
Yeah.
And have you developed it, or are you developing it?
We have developed it.
You have developed it. So for the first time ever, we've developed a unique technology that should, what's the benefit of this? Is this going to move research dramatically, or increase the results from research dramatically? Tell me what you see as the big benefit of this.
Yeah, it will increase the translation or translation rate of the basic research to more towards clinical success. And in future, we do believe that this system is going to complement or supplement the clinical trials.
Okay, so when you talk about it's going to increase the translation, which again is another bit of jargon, get away from that word, but would you say that is there a way of quantifying this? Right now, you would estimate that the translation rises, 1% of the time in all research, and you expect do you think this has the promise to increase that to 50%? Is anything like that? Can you
There
say?
is actually, yes, for the failure, there is a kind of like a ratio that it's about 95 to 98% failure rate of the basic research, translating into clinical value. We believe that use of our system will substantially increase the translation rate.
And do you have any idea? See, I mean, substantially increase, like it was with Polina, is okay, but it's not as good as if you would say, we believe it can substantially increase as much as, pick a number that you believe, not that you've proven it, but you believe. So
yes,
you have a number.
I would say, yeah, maybe to 30%.
Okay. So we've developed, right now, physicians who research medical issues around the human skin are successful in only 5% of the time, approximately. Or data or research has shown that it's successful in translating that to usable technology only 5% of the time. We've developed a tool that we believe can increase the success of research to maybe as much as 30% of the time. So now we got to figure out how to say that, because that's, I mean, if that would, again, you say that has the promise to. So you don't want somebody saying, "Hey, this is true." We believe this has the promise to, because it does have that. You're on mute there, Dan. I think you meant to say 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So, Assem, let's again start with what you got, or what the problem is. Only 10% or 5%, whatever it was, of skin tissue research. Say human skin, because when you say skin, if you say human skin, it puts my head where it needs to be. Because when you say skin, I don't immediately think human skin. So something about 10% or 5% of all research in human skin translates to, we think we're developing a technology to have developed and get it to 30%. So say that. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the current failure rate of translation of basic research to the clinic research is about 95%. And we have developed a technology based on human skin tissue, which we believe will increase the success rate to about 30%.
Okay, I would say,
or decrease the failure rate to 70%.
Yeah, I would say talk about the 5%.
5%.
Failure rate, and you expect, or success rate, excuse me, 5% success. You expect it to go to 30%. Has a promise to go to 30% success rate or more. That's what I see. Because when you go 95, I can't relate that.
Okay.
Okay. So let's try it once again.
Yeah. So the current success rate of translating basic research to clinical success is about 5%, and we have developed a novel technology based on human skin tissue, and we believe that use of this technology will increase the success rate to approximately 30%
or more. Yeah, when you say to approximately 30% or more, to approximately 30%, you're being very exact. I would feel more comfortable if you leave it a little loose by saying 30% or more. Okay. All right. So there you go. That's your principle. And now you just got to figure out how to say that smoothly. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thanks, Assem. Mel, next is Sandra Katz with Med Debriefer.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Sandra Katz from the University of Pittsburgh's Learning Research and Development Center. imagine that you or a loved one are involved in a car wreck or have a serious medical emergency. Well, you want a well-trained crew of emergency medical service providers to come and help you and get you stable before you go to the hospital. There is a critical shortage of paramedics and EMTs, and we have a tool. We are developing a tool that we believe can facilitate paramedic training. It's called
Right. So that was way too long, Sandra, and I appreciate you taking the time to go through that. Yeah, but distinct from it being way too long, it's also, so you're developing there's a huge shortage of EMTs currently.
EMTs and paramedics in particular.
Okay, there's a huge shortage of paramedics today.
Yes.
Okay, so the fact that you're developing a school, it would be the thought would be, well, okay, but yes, you and everybody else. I mean, are you just filling another school? Is there anything special about your school?
I'm sorry, it's not a school, it's a tool. It's a web-based tool.
Oh, a tool.
Support paramedic training. It's a simulation-based training system.
Okay, so there's a real shortage of paramedics today.
Mm-hmm.
And is there a shortage of training tools for paramedics?
No, there's simulation-based training labs are all over the place, but what is missing is enough time for students to get simulation-based training practice so that they feel competent and confident before they test.
And how is it that your tool will allow more time versus others don't?
More practice. What it supports is additional practice. Our tool provides students with pre-crafted, expertly crafted scenarios, and more importantly, the opportunity to get automated feedback like they would get if they were working with a simulation facilitator, an instructor. So the tool is actually designed so that peers can do scenarios together any place. They don't need to be in a simulation lab. They don't need an instructor present because the system is going to be there to provide them with feedback.
Oh, so it's a web-based tool?
Mm-hmm.
And is what's out there today, none of it's web-based? Or you have to be present, you need an instructor or something like that?
Well, it has benefits that combine benefits from other systems that are available. There is a tablet-based tool that a company has developed that allows simulation instructors to set up scenarios and then use the log that's produced as they check off actions to generate feedback. But the instructor who's experienced has to be able to interpret that log and give feedback. Students don't have the capability to interpret a log that's given to them and give a peer good feedback. So what MedDebriefer does is interpret the log that's generated from all of the clicks on the interface of their actions and say, okay, well, here's what you did well, here's what you didn't do well.
So let me say it this way then. So there's a real shortage of paramedics today, and there is not a comprehensive web-based system that facilitates self-learning.
Yes. Well, peer-to-peer learning, actually.
Okay.
We can imagine a student using this on their own, and some students have tried it.
Let me say this, say it this way, Sandra. We have developed the first comprehensive web-based tool that allows for peer-to-peer. Now, you're going to have to say later on what peer-to-peer means. I mean, what it means, but the benefit of peer-to-peer. But the first web-based tool that you believe, in fact, that you believe could substantially increase the number of paramedics available.
Actually, that isn't what I believe. I believe that it will prepare paramedics to be more confident and competent in their craft, and then in their profession.
Okay,
And
so again, Sandra, just in the name of time, are you saying that most paramedics or new paramedics are not as prepared as they need to be, could be, would want to be?
right, and sometimes they are prepared, but they don't feel prepared.
Okay.
So having more practice can help with that.
Okay, so you can say today there's a real shortage of paramedics, and there's not there is right now no training tool out there that most paramedics would say gives them sufficient amount of training to do their job well.
Mm-hmm.
Developing the first tool that you expect will in fact prepare paramedics well for their job.
Yes.
Okay, and stop right there.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's a stop at the end and let them think, the investor or the potential customer, to think for a millisecond, oh, tell me more.
Mm-hmm.
And to realize that, in their own mind, and then you go on.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
got it. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We do have time for 4 minutes, but nonetheless, is there somebody else that wants to jump in with a last minute thing here? Or any questions? Well, while you're thinking of your questions, I would also say the principles we talked about here.
No, I think Anne Marie had a question.
Okay.
I just have a quick question. I'm not going to try to squeeze my pitch in, but maybe I'll be able to contact somebody later. But my question is there a place online where there are good examples of pitches that we could go watch, and see people doing it really well?
I'm sure.
Maria, I can handle that for you. If you want to contact me offline, you can get to me at dbroderick at innovation.pitt.edu. Maybe I can put it in the chat, but I'm happy to help you there.
Okay, great.
Anybody else have any questions? Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question now. So how important is actually the appropriateness of the audience?
How important is what about the audience?
How appropriate is your audience, where actually you are
like in
trying
my
to
case,
pitch?
I try not to have anybody in the room that doesn't have an interest in investing. I often have no idea what their field of interest is or their field of experience. That's why when I do this, I make sure that no matter who that is in the crowd, they'll be able to understand. That's why I talk about acronyms and things like when you say skin, make sure that you almost have to. I don't want to have it sound degrading, but like kind of dumb it down so that people really understand easily to their phones. And it doesn't matter, how sophisticated they are or not in the crowd when it comes to that. And if every person in the room without a doubt is a scientist or whatever, then to me, that's what's important, is that you're able to speak. Because even people that are sophisticated in your field, they may still not realize what you've got because we all have our own paradigms. And so when even though you say it, they may not get it. So you have to assume that they're not getting it until they really are engaged. You can tell whether people kind of got what you've got, what you're trying to say or not, by how well they ask by the kinds of questions and comments they make. I can tell you how engaged they are all the time. Anything else?
Continuation from that. So do you need to have different pitches for the audience based on the audience?
No, I haven't. Sometimes I'm if I'm pitching a medical device and I know, usually when I'm pitching, it isn't necessarily that there's only a physician in the room. Usually there's physicians and not physicians. So I make sure that both people understand, what it is that they're talking about. And again, on an extremist, then yes, is the answer to your question. In other words, if you have people that are very sophisticated researchers, et cetera, and everyone, versus somebody you don't know anybody who's in the crowd, Then you might say the ones that are the experts, you could, tailor it more to them and use more jargon because they would understand. But that's kind of in theory, because in reality, you won't always get just experts in the room. You're going to have a mix of people.
Okay, perfect. And can you please repeat your contact number once again? So,
Sure, 412-683-3400.
perfect. Thank you.
And then my website is let's see, I'll leave that thing there. Well, my website is Mel Eagle. No, excuse me, my website is eagleventures.com.
Well, thanks again, Mel. This has been great.
You bet.
I don't know if you've seen the comments, but lots of appreciation there for you.
Oh,
And
okay.
also for the presenters. Thank you for
Okay.
sharing.
No, I haven't seen those. Good.
So we do this every month, second Monday of each month. So for those of you interested, just keep checking back, and we'll send out announcements of our upcoming speakers. So thank you.
Okay. And I'll be glad, Dave and Dan, if you want to do this again in so many months out, 6 months or a year, that's fine too.
Great. We might take you up on that.
We will circle back with you